Kang Dae-ho walked through the lower levels of mining station Theta 7 with his inspection tablet in hand. The metal floors rang under his boots. He had been the foreman here for 5 years now, and he knew every corner of this place. But today, something felt wrong. The air was thick and heavy. A strange smell filled the corridors, like old metal mixed with something organic. Dae-ho checked his tablet. The power output from the lower core had dropped again, 3rd time this month. The alien administrators kept saying everything was fine, but the numbers told a different story. He reached the massive door that led to the containment area. Most workers never came down here. The alien overseers from the Voreen Collective handled everything related to the power source. They said humans didn't need to know the details. Just do your mining work and don't ask questions. But Dae-ho was curious. And more importantly, he was responsible for this station's efficiency. He used his override code to open the door. The tablet beeped a warning, but he ignored it. The door slid open with a groan of old metal. What he saw made him stop and stare. The chamber was enormous. It stretched far beyond what his flashlight could reach. And in the center, barely visible under layers of dirt and waste, was something alive. Something massive. Dae-ho stepped closer. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. The thing was covered in so much grime that he could barely make out its shape. But he could see it breathing. Slow, labored movements that made the whole chamber shudder slightly. He walked around the edge of the chamber, his light scanning the creature. It was huge. Maybe 400 meters long. Its body was connected to massive cables and machinery. The metal dug into its flesh in some places. The whole area was filled with old garbage, crystallized fuel, and layers of dust that must have been building up for centuries. Then he saw the eye. It was half covered in mineral deposits. But it was open, looking at him. The eye was pale, almost white, but there was intelligence there. And something else. Pain, maybe, or just exhaustion. What are you? The creature didn't respond, but the eye followed him as he moved. Dae-ho pulled out his tablet and started taking pictures. He documented everything. The waste, the poor conditions, the way the machinery seemed to be crushing parts of the creature's body. This wasn't just a power source. This was a living being, and it was being treated like garbage. He spent 2 hours in that chamber, taking notes and measurements. When he finally left, his mind was racing. He went straight to the administrative office. Administrator Quill was a Voreen, tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. He looked up from his desk when Dae-ho entered. "Foreman Kang, you are not scheduled for a meeting." "I just came from the lower containment area," Dae-ho said. "The power source. It's a living creature, isn't it?" Quill's expression didn't change. "That is correct. It is a Baikryong. Very rare. Very valuable." "It's dying," Dae-ho said flatly. "The conditions down there are terrible." "When was the last time it was cleaned or maintained?" "Maintained?" Quill's voice had a tone of confusion. "It has functioned for 3,000 years. Its external condition is irrelevant to its energy production." "Quill, the energy production is dropping," Dae-ho argued. "Look at the reports. It's down 15% over the last year. Maybe it's because the thing can barely breathe." Quill waved one hand dismissively. "Minor fluctuations. The Baikryong will continue to function. Your concern is unnecessary. Focus on your mining operations. Foreman, this is not your department." Dae-ho felt anger rising in his chest, but he controlled it. "With respect, Administrator, I'm responsible for efficiency on this station. If our power source fails, everything fails. Let me at least assess what proper maintenance would require." "No," Quill said. "The creature is Voren property. You will not interfere. This discussion is over." Dae-ho left the office, but he didn't give up. He went to the station's database and started researching. Most information about Baikryong was restricted, but he found old Earth files, Ancient Korean legends mentioned white dragons, powerful creatures that helped civilizations in exchange for respect and care. They were partners, not slaves. He dug deeper. He found technical specifications from other Voreen stations. The Baek-Ryong species needed specific environmental conditions. They had bioreactive scales that filtered energy. But those scales needed to be clean to function properly. They had complex respiratory systems that required clear air, everything the creature in the lower chamber wasn't getting. Over the next week, Dae-ho became obsessed. He watched the power output numbers carefully. Every day, they dropped a little more. He went back to the chamber 3 more times, always making sure the alien overseers didn't see him. Each time, those pale eyes watched him, waiting. On his 4th visit, he made a decision. He stood in front of the creature's head, looking up at that enormous, filthy face. "I don't know if you can understand me," he said, "but I'm going to help you. I don't care what the Voreen say. This isn't right." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the creature made a sound. It was quiet, barely a rumble, but Dae-ho felt it in his chest. The eye blinked slowly. It understood. Dae-ho pulled out his tablet and started making plans. He would need help, equipment, supplies, and he would need to do this without the administrators finding out until it was too late to stop him. He looked at the creature one more time. "I'll be back, I promise." As he walked out of the chamber, Dae-ho felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. This was bigger than mining quotas or station efficiency. This was about doing what was right. He had no idea that this decision would change everything. Not just for the creature or the station, but for human-alien relations across the entire galaxy. All because one human foreman decided that a dirty dragon deserved a bath. Dae-ho knew he couldn't do this alone. He needed people he could trust. People who would understand why this mattered. The next morning, he approached Lee Soo-jin in the chemical processing lab. Soo-jin was one of the best engineers on the station. She could make cleaning compounds that could dissolve anything without damaging the surfaces underneath. She was also practical and didn't waste time on small talk. "I need your help with something unusual," Dae-ho said, closing the lab door behind him. Soo-jin looked up from her workstation. "How unusual?" "Very unusual. And probably against regulations." She raised an eyebrow. "You have my attention." Dae-ho showed her the pictures on his tablet. He watched her face change as she scrolled through the images. The enormous creature, the terrible conditions, the layers of waste and grime. "What is that?" she asked. "A Baek-Ryong. It's our power source. It's been down there for 3,000 years and nobody has ever cleaned it." Soo-jin stared at the pictures. 3,000 years? That's impossible. Nothing could survive like that. But it has. And it's dying now. The power output is dropping. I think if we could clean it properly, the efficiency would increase dramatically. Soo-jin was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Show me what you need." The second person Dae-ho approached was Park Hyun-woo. He operated the heavy machinery in the mining sections. If anyone could handle the equipment needed for such a massive job, it was him. They met in the equipment bay after the shift ended. Dae-ho explained the situation. Hyun-woo listened without interrupting. His arms crossed over his chest. "So you want to wash a 400-meter dragon that the aliens say we can't touch?" Hyun-woo said when Dae-ho finished. "Yes. And you think this will work?" "I think we have to try." Hyun-woo grinned. "I'm in. This is the most interesting thing anyone has asked me to do in years." The third person was harder to convince. Choi Na-ri was a xenobiologist, studying alien life forms. She was careful and methodical. She didn't take risks unless the science supported them. Dae-ho found her in the research lab. He laid out all his findings: the declining power output, the creature's poor condition, the research about Baek-Ryong biology. Nari studied everything carefully. She pulled up her own databases and cross-referenced his information. After an hour, she looked up at him. "This is extraordinary," she said. "The Baekryong have bioreactive scales. When they're clean, they can process energy at incredible rates, but when they're blocked..." She gestured at the pictures. "This creature is essentially suffocating. Its scales can't function. Its respiratory system is clogged. I'm surprised it's still alive. Will you help us?" Daeho asked. Nari nodded slowly. "Yes. But we need to be very careful. If we do this wrong, we could kill it. Or it could kill us." Over the next 2 weeks, the team planned everything in secret. They met in Sujin's lab during off hours. They studied the creature's biology, the chamber's layout, and the station's systems. Sujin developed special cleaning solutions. They had to be strong enough to dissolve 3,000 years of accumulated waste, but gentle enough not to harm the dragon's scales or skin. She ran hundreds of tests on mineral samples from the lower levels. Hyun-woo mapped out how to use the station's water systems. They would need massive amounts of water and pressure. He figured out how to reroute the reclamation systems without triggering alarms. Nari studied everything she could find about Baekryong physiology. She learned that their scales weren't just armor. They were complex organs that filtered energy and waste. When clean, a single Baekryong could power a small city. When dirty, they could barely sustain themselves. "The Voreen have no idea what they have," Nari said during one meeting. "If this creature was properly cared for, the energy output could triple. Maybe more." "Then why don't they clean it?" Hyunwoo asked. "Because they see it as a tool, not a living being," Daeho said. "Tools don't need care. They just need to function." 3 weeks into their planning, disaster nearly struck. Administrator Quill discovered them in the lab. He walked in without warning, his forearms gesturing in agitation. "Foreman Kang, I have been monitoring your activities. You have been accessing restricted files. You have been in unauthorized areas. What are you planning?" Daeho stood up to face him. The others remained quiet, watching. "I'm planning to clean the Baekryong," Daeho said. "Properly clean it. With respect and care." Quill's expression hardened. "I told you not to interfere. The creature is property of the Voreen Collective. You have no authority." "I have authority over station efficiency," Daeho said. "And I'm telling you that your property is dying. When it dies, this station shuts down. Everyone loses their jobs, including you." "You are terminated," Quill said coldly. "All of you. You will be removed from this station within 24 hours. "No," Daeho said firmly. "Look at these numbers." He pulled up his tablet and showed the power graphs. "Output is down 20% now. In 6 months, it will be critical. In a year, we might lose power completely. You can fire us, but that won't change the facts." Quill looked at the numbers. For the first time, Daeho saw uncertainty in the alien's face. "You don't know this will work," Quill said. "No, I don't. But I know doing nothing definitely won't work." There was a long silence. Finally, Quill spoke. "You have 48 hours. If you attempt this cleaning operation and fail, you will be charged with sabotage. If you succeed..." He paused. "We will discuss it." R. Quill left the lab. The team looked at each other. 48 hours, Sujin said. "That's not much time. Then we start now," Daeho said. Hyunwoo, prep the equipment. Sujin, prepare the solutions. Nari, monitor the creature's vital signs. I'll coordinate everything. They worked through the night. They gathered equipment. They mixed solutions. They planned every step. And in the back of Daeho's mind, one thought kept repeating. This has to work. Not just for the station. For the creature that had been suffering alone for 3,000 years. At dawn, they stood at the entrance to the containment chamber. Everything was ready. The equipment was in place. The solutions were prepared. Deho looked at his team. "Are we ready?" They all nodded. "Then let's give this dragon a bath." The containment chamber echoed with the sound of machinery powering up. Hyun-woo sat in the operator's seat of the largest cleaning rig, his hands steady on the controls. Soo-jin stood by the chemical mixing station, monitoring the solution ratios on her screens. Nari had set up medical scanners to watch the dragon's vital signs. Dae-ho stood closest to the creature's head. He looked up at the massive form, covered in thousands of years of filth. Those pale eyes watched him. "Start with the foam," Dae-ho said into his radio. "Low concentration. Let's see how it reacts." Soo-jin pressed a button. Nozzles around the chamber hissed to life. White foam sprayed out, covering the nearest section of the dragon's body. The foam was warm and smelled like minerals. It began to bubble immediately as it touched the accumulated grime. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the dragon moved. It was just a small shift. But in a creature that size, small movements were massive. The entire asteroid trembled. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors above them. "Keep going," Dae-ho said, even though his heart was pounding. "It's just reacting to the sensation." Nari checked her screens. "Vital signs are stable. Heart rate increased. But that's normal. It's been so long since anything touched it. The sensation must be overwhelming." The foam continued to spread. Hyun-woo directed it with precision, covering larger and larger areas. The cleaning solution was working. Where the foam touched, layers of black and gray waste began to dissolve. Colors appeared underneath. Not pure white like Dae-ho expected, but something more complex. Hints of pearl and silver. "It's working," Soo-jin said, her voice excited. "The solution is breaking down the mineral deposits without harming the organic tissue." Dae-ho moved closer to the dragon's head. Up close, he could see more detail. The foam was dissolving centuries of accumulated dirt around the creature's eye. It was beautiful, pale blue-white with flecks of silver, like starlight frozen in crystal. "Can you understand me?" Dae-ho asked softly, even though he knew the others could hear him on the radio. The dragon's eye focused on him. It blinked, slowly. Then, for the first time in 3,000 years, it made a sound that wasn't pain. The rumble started deep in its chest and traveled through the whole chamber. It vibrated in Dae-ho's bones. It wasn't threatening. It was almost like purring. "Did you hear that?" Nari's voice came through the radio, full of wonder. "That's a contentment sound. I've read about it but never thought I'd hear it." They worked for hours. The foam cleaned section after section. Then came the water. High-pressure sprayers washed away the dissolved grime. The water ran black at first, then gray, then finally began to run clear. Hyun-woo had to stop several times to prevent the drainage systems from overflowing. Thousands of gallons of dirty water were pumped out and processed. The contamination was worse than anyone had imagined. After 12 hours, they had cleaned about a quarter of the dragon's body. The team was exhausted, but they couldn't stop now. They worked in shifts. 2 people resting, while 2 worked. Dae-ho refused to rest at all. He stayed by the dragon's head, operating the handheld sprayer, personally cleaning around the sensitive areas. As more of the dragon's body became visible, they discovered something amazing. The scales weren't just decorative. They had patterns. Glyphs and symbols carved or grown into them. Ancient writing from civilizations that no longer existed. "These markings," Nari said, taking pictures. "They're beautiful. This creature has lived through the rise and fall of entire species. By the 24th hour, they had cleaned half the dragon's body." The difference was stunning. The cleaned sections glowed with a soft, inner light. The scales were smooth and perfect, and the energy output had already increased by 30%. Administrator Quill came down to observe. He stood at the chamber entrance, all 4 arms crossed, watching in silence. Daeho ignored him and kept working. At the 30-hour mark, something unexpected happened. As Daeho was cleaning near the dragon's head, the creature moved more deliberately. It turned its head slowly, carefully, until it was facing him directly. The movement was precise, controlled. Then it spoke. The voice didn't come from its mouth. It came through electromagnetic frequencies that the station's communication systems picked up and translated. The speakers throughout the chamber crackled to life. Why? The single word stopped everyone. Daeho froze with the sprayer still in his hands. He looked up at the enormous face, now just meters away from him. Why what? He asked. Why do you care for me? The dragon's voice was ancient and deep. Your kind gains nothing from this. The other ones only take. But you give. Why? Daeho lowered the sprayer. He thought about his answer carefully. Because it's the right thing to do. You were suffering. You're a living being. That's enough reason. The dragon was quiet for a long moment. In 3,000 years, no one has asked if I was suffering. No one has cared. In the rective self, in the Von Hoder's commanded body, in the Von Hoder's rectivality, and the ply, consum cly, to stame, and the rectivality. I care. Daeho said simply. We all do. He gestured to his team. That's what humans do. We see someone who needs help, and we help the other ones, the Voreen. They see me as a tool, a machine, to produce power. You're not a machine, Daeho said. You're a Baekryong. My people have legends about your kind. Dragons who helped ancient civilizations. Partners, not slaves. You know the old stories, the dragon said with something like wonder. Yes. Once, we were partners. We gave our power freely to those who respected us. But the Voreen found me alone. They used machines to bind me. Dampeners to suppress my will. For 3,000 years, I have been trapped in my own body. Nari gasped. Neural dampeners? That's illegal under galactic law. Goin for my. Laws do not apply when no one knows, the dragon said. But now, the washing has removed many of the control devices. They were hidden in the waste, disguised as maintenance equipment. I can feel my strength returning. I can move again. I can think. Clearly. Very but. Daeho felt a chill. You could leave now, couldn't you? You could destroy this station and escape. I could. The dragon agreed. Would you stop working? If you knew this? Daeho thought about it. Then he picked up the sprayer again. No. You still need the rest of your body cleaned. And whatever you decide to do after that, at least you'll be clean and comfortable. The dragon made that rumbling sound again. The purr that vibrated through everything. You are a strange human, Kang Daeho. But I begin to understand why the old stories spoke highly of your kind. Keep talking if you want, Daeho said, going back to work. But stay still. I've got a lot more scrubbing to do. For the first time in 3 millennia, the dragon laughed. At the 36-hour mark, they finished cleaning the dragon's body. The transformation was complete. What had been a filthy, barely visible mass was now a magnificent creature. Its scales were opalescent, shimmering with colors that shifted in the light. White, silver, pale blue, and hints of gold. Patterns and ancient symbols covered its entire length, telling stories in dead languages. The dragon stretched for the first time in centuries. The cables that had held it snapped like threads. Machinery that had dug into its flesh fell away. The entire asteroid shook with the movement. More alarms blared, but the team barely noticed. They were exhausted, but amazed at what they had accomplished. Nari checked her instruments one last time. Energy output is at 340% of previous levels. And it's still climbing. This is incredible. The dragon raised its head high, almost touching the chamber ceiling. Its eyes glowed brighter now, fully alive and aware. It looked at each member of the team in turn, then focused on Daeho. "You have freed me," it said. "Not just from the filth, but from the chains that held my mind. I owe you a debt that I cannot easily repay." "You don't owe us anything," Daeho said, though he had to sit down. His legs were shaking from exhaustion. "We just did what was right. And that is exactly why I will make you an offer," the dragon said. "I could leave this place. I am strong enough now to break through the asteroid and escape into space, but I will not. I will stay and provide power to this station. But only under new terms." "What terms?" Administrator Quill's voice came from the entrance. He had been watching the entire time. Now, he walked into the chamber with a squad of Voreen security officers behind him. They carried weapons, though Daeho doubted those weapons could hurt the dragon now. The dragon turned its massive head to face Quill. "The terms are simple, Administrator. I will no longer be property. I will be a partner. I will provide power freely, but I require respect and proper care." "Impossible," Quill said. "You are a resource. Resources do not negotiate." "Then you will have no power," the dragon said calmly. "And your mining station will shut down. Your profits will end. Your career will be over. Choose." Quill's face showed conflict. His forearms gestured in agitation. "The collective will never accept this. A resource cannot have rights." "I am not a resource," the dragon's voice grew harder. "I am Baekho, last of my kind in this sector. I have lived for millions of years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I was here before the Voreen collective existed, and I will be here long after it is gone. You will treat me with respect, or you will treat me as an enemy. Choose carefully." The security officers raised their weapons. Daeho jumped to his feet despite his exhaustion. "Wait! There has to be a better way." Light filled the chamber. The dragon's scales glowed brilliant white. A shield of pure energy formed around it and around the human team. The Voreen weapons fired, but the energy bolts simply vanished when they hit the shield. "I do not wish to fight," Baekho said, "but I will protect those who showed me kindness. Lower your weapons." Quill raised one hand. The security officers hesitated, then lowered their weapons. The administrator looked at the dragon, then at Daeho, then back at the dragon. Calculations were visible in his expression. "What exactly do you want?" Quill asked finally. "Monthly cleaning and maintenance, performed by humans I trust," Baekho said. "Freedom to move within designated safe areas. Communication and consultation before major decisions. And most importantly, acknowledgement that I am a sentient being with rights, not property. And in exchange, I will provide power at levels you have never seen. I will help make this the most productive mining station in your entire collective. I will even advise you on mining efficiency. I know these asteroids better than your scanners." Quill was quiet for a long time. His species was logical and practical. Emotions didn't factor into their decisions, only cost and benefit. And the benefit of accepting was obvious. "I do not have authority to agree to these terms," Quill said slowly. "The collective council must decide." "Then call them," Baekho said. "But know this. These humans stay. Foreman Kang, Daeho, and his team will not be punished. They saved your station, even if you lack the wisdom to see it." Over the next 3 days, the collective council debated. They studied the power output numbers. They reviewed the station's productivity. They consulted their legal experts on whether a power source could be legally recognized as sentient. During those 3 days, Daeho and his team stayed in the chamber with Baekho. The dragon told them stories of the old times, how the Baekryong used to partner with civilizations, sharing power in exchange for respect and friendship. How they could live for eons if treated well. How they valued honor and trust above all things. "Your species reminds me of the old ones," Baekho said to Daeho on the second night. "They were not as advanced as the Voreen in technology, But they understood something the Voreen have forgotten. "What's that?" Deho asked. "That true strength comes not from controlling others, but from working together. The Voreen are efficient, but they are alone. Each species they conquer becomes a slave, not an ally. Your humans are different. You see another being in pain, and your first thought is to help. That is not weakness. That is the foundation of true civilization." On the third day, Administrator Quill returned with the Council's decision. He looked tired, and his movements were stiff with reluctance. "The Collective Council has agreed to your terms," he said. "You will be recognized as a sentient being. You will have rights. The humans will be promoted to oversee your care." He paused. "This is unprecedented in Voreen history." "Then perhaps it is time for your history to change," Baekho said. Quill turned to leave, then stopped. He looked back at Deho. "Foreman Kang, I do not understand your species, but I acknowledge that your actions have benefited the collective. This is difficult for us to accept." "You don't have to understand us," Deho said. "You just have to work with us." After Quill left, Sujin laughed tiredly. "We did it. We actually did it. We gave a dragon a bath," Hyunwoo said, grinning. "Best thing I've ever done. This is going to change everything," Nari said quietly. "Once word gets out, other humans working in alien facilities will start asking questions. Why are we treating sentient beings like machines? Why aren't we demanding better conditions?" Deho looked up at Baekho. The dragon's eyes glowed with warmth and amusement. "Change always starts small." Baekho said, "One act of kindness, one moment of compassion, and suddenly, the entire galaxy shifts." 6 months passed. Mining Station Theta 7 became the most productive facility in the entire Voreen collective. Ships arrived daily to study the unusual arrangement. A dragon working as a partner instead of a slave. Humans given authority over xenobiological care. It was strange. It was inefficient according to Voreen logic, and it was working better than anyone expected. The station operated at 340% of its previous efficiency. Baekho not only provided power, but also advised on mining operations. The dragon could sense mineral deposits through the asteroid field in ways that scanners couldn't match. Production increased, while accidents decreased. The numbers spoke for themselves. Deho stood on the new observation platform built specifically for maintenance visits. It was Tuesday, the weekly cleaning day. He wore his work suit and carried his equipment. Below him, Baekho rested comfortably in a chamber that had been completely rebuilt. Clean, spacious, with proper ventilation and lighting. "Ready for your bath?" Deho called down. The dragon's head lifted. Those magnificent eyes sparkled with amusement. "I have waited all week for this. The asteroid dust accumulates faster than I would like." Sujin operated the foam dispensers from her station. She had refined the cleaning solution even further. Now it not only cleaned but also nourished the dragon's scales. Foam coming in 3, 2, 1. White foam sprayed across Baekho's back. The dragon rumbled with pleasure. That deep purring sound had become familiar to everyone on the station. Workers in the upper levels knew that Tuesday mornings meant the dragon was happy. Hyunwoo monitored the water systems from his console. "I appreciate your dedication," the dragon said. "Though I still find it amusing that the most advanced mining station in this sector stops work once a week so a human can scrub my scales. Best use of time ever," Deho said, activating his personal sprayer. He descended on a lift platform to work on the detailed cleaning around the dragon's head. This was his favorite part. Up close, he could see the ancient patterns in the scales. Each one told a story. Nari arrived with her medical scanner. She had been promoted to chief xenobiologist for the entire sector. Other stations now consulted her about proper care for living resources. She had published 23 papers in the last 6 months. Her work was changing how the galaxy thought about sentient beings. "Vital signs look perfect," she said, checking her readings. "Your immune system is stronger than last month. The regular care is definitely working. I feel young again," Baiko said with a laugh. "Though, young, for my kind, is still several million years old." As Daiho worked, he thought about how much had changed. Word had spread across human space about the dragon bath. Other human workers in alien facilities started questioning their working conditions. They demanded better treatment for sentient beings used as resources. Some aliens resisted, but others, seeing the success of Station Theta 7, began to reconsider their methods. The story became famous. Songs were written about Foreman Kang Dae-ho and the Dirty Dragon. Children learned about it in schools. It became a symbol of what humans brought to the galaxy, not superior weapons or faster ships, just simple compassion and the willingness to do the right thing. "You know," Baiko said as Dae-ho scrubbed near his eye, "I have been thinking about the old stories. About how my kind used to partner with civilizations." "And?" Dae-ho asked. "I think those civilizations might have been human ancestors. The descriptions match. Beings who valued honor and friendship, who saw partners instead of tools, who would spend hours caring for another being simply because it was right." "Maybe," Dae-ho said. "Or maybe there have always been good people throughout the galaxy. They just get forgotten when the powerful ones write the history." "A wise observation," Baiko agreed. "Though I notice you humans are changing that history now. Station by station, world by world, one act of kindness at a time." Sujin's voice came through the radio. "We're getting visitors. Dae-ho. Another delegation from the Collective Council. They want to see the operation." Dae-ho sighed. "That's the 5th one this month. Let them watch," Baiko said. "Let them see that there is a better way. That efficiency does not require cruelty. That partnership produces better results than slavery." The delegation arrived. 10 Voreen officials in formal robes. They stood on the observation platform, watching in silence as the human team worked. Their expressions were unreadable, but Dae-ho knew they were recording everything. After an hour, one of them approached Dae-ho. "Foreman Kang, we have reviewed the reports. Station Theta 7 now produces more than any 3 of our standard facilities. How is this possible?" Dae-ho put down his sprayer. "It's simple. We treat Baiko with respect. We care for his needs. We listen to his advice. He's not just a power source. He's a member of our team. When you treat someone well, they give their best in return." "But this is inefficient," the official said. "The time spent on maintenance. The resources dedicated to comfort. By our calculations, this should reduce productivity." "Your calculations don't account for motivation," Dae-ho said. "Baiko works hard because he wants to. Because we're his friends, not his captors. You can't calculate the value of that." The dragon's head moved closer to the platform. The officials stepped back nervously, but Baiko's voice was gentle. "What Foreman Kang says is true. For 3,000 years, I gave you minimal power because I had no choice. Now I give you maximum power because I choose to. Because these humans showed me that there are still beings in the universe who care about others. That is worth working for." The officials left without saying more. But Dae-ho knew they were thinking. Change was slow for the Voreen, but it was happening. As the sun set on the asteroid field, casting long shadows through the chamber, Dae-ho finished the final section of cleaning. Baiko's scales gleamed like starlight. Perfect and beautiful. "Another good day's work," Dae-ho said, packing his equipment. "Thank you, my friend," Baiko said warmly. "Same time next week? Wouldn't miss it," Dae-ho replied. "Though I still think it's funny. All the advanced technology in the galaxy, and the best thing we did was give someone a bath. Never underestimate the power of simple kindness," Baiko said. "Empires are built on weapons and fear, but they fall eventually. Friendships built on trust and care, Those last forever. Daeho looked at the dragon, at his team, at the station that had become his home. 6 months ago, he was just a foreman worried about efficiency reports. Now, he was part of something bigger, a small change that was rippling across the galaxy, because one human decided that a dirty dragon deserved to be clean. And in that simple act, showed the universe that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or weapons. It was the ability to see suffering and think, I should help. No calculations needed. No benefit required. Just the pure, simple belief that kindness mattered. The galaxy was slowly learning that lesson. And it started with a bath. Daeho smiled as he rode the lift back up. Behind him, Baekho hummed contentedly, a sound like music that filled the chamber. Above them, stars shone through the observation windows, and in the distance, more ships approached. More delegations wanting to learn the secret. The secret was simple. The secret was human, and the secret was spreading, one clean dragon at a time.